my life headed in to Manhattan. That was a big part of my life that I had to earn the bad way. I had to learn it with my fist and whatever come. It all started when me and my friend went to Tonawanda, New York, to look for a way for some money there. We was out looking and planning whatever we could, to make a hit of money. And we was driving down the main street in Tonawanda, New York, and I looked over and I saw a tavern that on the top of it, it had a big star shining, blinking on and off, on and off. And it kind of caught my eye. I wished I never saw it that day, but I did. And I looked in the front window and I could see this lady bartender, see her right on the road. And we happened to stop right there by a red light, and I was looking at her. And she was a beautiful blonde. And later I found out that she was older than what anybody thought she was. But to me, my first look at her that day was 30, 35 years old, well groomed. You just see her movements in her body was great and everything through the window. And so this fellow that was with me was named Carl, and we was hunting a motel room that night. And so I told Carl, I said, I'm going to get out and go back, have a couple drinks to that bar. I want you to go ahead and get a room for us, and then come back and we'll go eat something. I want to go in there and see what that bar is all about. So when I walked in, I was always special dressed, I was always overdressed for a man. I wore mostly a white sweater with a turtleneck, or either a black turtleneck and a white coat, and that's how I dressed: white sports coat and turtleneck and nice clothes, floor shine shoes, the whole works, everything perfect. And so I walked into the bar, and as I walked in the front door, I seen the lady look at me. And she had a hard time taking her eye off of me. I noticed that. Because she was mixing the drinks, she kept looking at the drinks and looking at me real quick, cutting her eyes backward and forward. So I went up and sat down close to where she's mixing drinks. And she smiled at me. And I sat there, and she come over and she asked me what I wanted. What did I want to drink? And I looked at her and laughed. I said, "You're about the only thing I want in this bar," like that, just joking with her. It was a joke. She took it as a joke, and so we got talking. I started drinking salty dogs all that night, and as the night grew on, my buddy come back from getting our room, and we went out. He took me when we went out and eat, and I asked Marian, the bartender, I said, "Can I bring you something?" She said, "Well, where are you going to go eat at?" And I said, "Well, just anywhere." And she said, "Well, it's an Italian restaurant down here, and you could bring me some raviolis or something back, on a plate." I said, "I'll do that." So we went down and ate, and I got an order to go, and this is probably about 10:30. Went back to the bar, and everybody in the bar was older people, like older men. There were hardly any ladies in there whatsoever. It was just kind of like a men's bar, and it was kind of quiet. And I had a lot of time, talking with Marian, and getting to know her. And as the night went on, it got into 1:30 or so, and she says, I got to close here at 2. And she says, you can stay. And she said, we'll go back in the back room and have some drinks. She had a dance floor in the back where she could close off the front bar and go back there, and the police wouldn't say nothing. She wouldn't be open. And so I kind of agreed. I said, I'll stay around. And so she locked up everything and wiped the counters down, put the glasses up. She come back where I was in the back room. I was sitting there. And she looked at me. And she says, man, she says, I've been waiting on you for years. And I said, well, what do you mean? She says, just been waiting on you, that's all. And she kind of laughed. And so she turned the jukebox down real low, and she filled it full of money, play all of her favorite songs. And so she says, let's dance. So I got up to dance with her, and I held her real tight to me, because she's well built, a beauty, everything a young man wanted in a woman. But you know, you could see in her throat and around her eyes that she was older than what she acted like. You know, she acted like she's 30, 32 years old, but she ended up being 55 years old. And so we got up to dance, and she pulled herself very close to me and running her hands on my back, running them up and down. And she got to my harness of my guns. I had 2 guns, one on each arm. And she got to my harnesses on the gun, and she felt them. And I introduced myself as Johnny to her. And she said, Johnny, she said, are you carrying? And I said, yeah. And so then she just went inside my coat and felt the guns on my shoulder. And she started to smile like that I did something great for her or something. And so she says, I've been waiting for you a long time. And so we really got close to each other. And she started, you know, I just moved in to the back room of the bar, her little apartment she had, and I lived there. I moved in there. I was only there a couple of weeks. And so my partner got irritated at me because I wasn't taking care of what I was supposed to be doing with him. You know, because I was putting all my mind on her, and I would just flutter her with flowers and candy and everything. And she had quite a bit of money, a lot from her husband's death, which that'll come into the video soon. And she didn't realize what love was really. All she wanted, it seemed like to me, was her back days, probably when her husband was alive. He was the head of the mafia there in Buffalo. And she dealt with, you know, some bad people, some rough people. And these are the ones that she loved to be around. And so when she found me like I was, she thought she had what she wanted. That was her thought. And so I just went along with it. And so later on, she said, Johnny, she said, what good you could, she said, do you ever think about going down to Manhattan? I said, no, not really. She said, oh. She said, you'd have anything you want once you got to Manhattan. And I said, well, who would give me these things? She started naming